What's up, guys? Nuance Bro checking in, and today we're going to be talking about what I think is one of the worst points brought up by those who oppose the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. Now, if you haven't heard, the jury found Kyle Rittenhouse not guilty in the Kenosha shootings, which means he's a free man. Of course, if you don't know the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, I don't know if you've been living under a rock or something like that, go look it up. I don't have time to explain it. Self-defense, all that good stuff. Some people said it wasn't, whatever. But one of the biggest points that I saw, and that I saw made quite often on Twitter and social media platforms and in media, is this idea that if Kyle Rittenhouse was black, oh boy, if Kyle Rittenhouse was black, things would have gotten a lot worse for him. You can see this in tweets, for example, from Bubba Wallace. If you remember him, he's the NASCAR driver guy who claimed he found a noose and the FBI came out and everything, and it turned out to just be a garage puller. Anyways, he said, let the boy be black and it would have been life. Hell, he would have had his life taken before the bullshit trial. Sad. Julian Castro, if you remember, ran for the Democratic nomination for the presidency. He says, you know damn well that if Kyle Rittenhouse were black, he would have been found guilty in a heartbeat or shot dead by cops on the scene. Nina Turner, if you remember her, she was working for Bernie Sanders. She said, if Kyle Rittenhouse were black, he would have been killed for holding that weapon. What's a justice system without justice? And just another blue check mark, Daniel Powell said, if Kyle Rittenhouse was black, cops would have mowed him down the second he showed up in public with an AR-15. Then they'd distribute this photo to prove he was a thug who had it coming. So is this true? Would we have any examples, perhaps, where someone might have been in similar type situations and one person was black? Of course, Kyle Rittenhouse is white. Were they found guilty, not guilty? Were they shot? Did they live? Let's take a look at some of those. Now, remember, one of the claims against Kyle Rittenhouse was, well, he was 17 years old, illegally carrying a firearm. He's 17, he's underage. It must be illegal for him to carry a firearm. Of course, we found out during the trial that wasn't the case. It's not illegal for him to carry that firearm. But some people to this day still maintain that's the case. And God forbid, if it was a black person who was carrying underage in Wisconsin, in Kenosha, oh my God, they would have been, of course they'd go to prison, right? Well, take a look at this. This is actually right outside the Kenosha, Wisconsin courthouse on November 21st, 2021. And what you see here is a father and his 16-year-old daughter. 16, a full year younger than Kyle Rittenhouse. And you see the title here, Armed Father-Daughter Duo March Alongside Anti-Rittenhouse Protesters to Protect Them. And here you can see more pictures of them together. You can clearly see the magazine is loaded through that window. You can see the brass casings. Also note in this picture, they have chamber flags on their firearms, which indicates that the chamber is empty in those firearms. But that doesn't appear to be the case in these pictures here. And listen, if you ask me, obviously this is a legal activity. I don't have a problem with it. But those people who said, well, if they were black, Kyle Rittenhouse, oh my God, they would have been shot on sight by the police, black person with a gun, oh my God, freak out. Didn't happen, wasn't charged, no arrest, no prison time, no prosecution. Here you have our armed demonstrations by all black people holding the same types of rifles that Kyle Rittenhouse had. And this is a CNN article saying an all-black group is arming itself and demanding change. They are the NFAC. And here you can see them in a picture from a rally they did in Louisville, Kentucky. Now, were any of them mowed down by police? Were any of them arrested, prosecuted merely for being a black man in America carrying a firearm? Of course not. Now, I understand these are cases of black individuals carrying their rifles, not necessarily killing anyone, so it's not completely analogous to the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. But let's take a look at some of these cases where maybe they were even more egregious than the Kyle Rittenhouse case. Maybe they were less clear on the self-defense aspect, and maybe the people they were shooting at were a little more, let's say the state takes them a little bit more seriously than the people that Kyle Rittenhouse shot. Let's start with this case. Man who shot at cops in unrest over Floyd death is acquitted. This is the case of Jaleel Stallings. He actually shot at Minneapolis police officers during the riots and protests after George Floyd's death. And you could look at the details of the case. I think it was a justified ruling on the part of the jury. But he was being hit with rubber bullets by police officers in a van. So I guess he thought he was being shot at, and he decided to fire back at the van. Luckily, no officers were hit, but he was charged. But ultimately, he was acquitted by a jury. So right there, you have a narrative busting story. They would say, oh my God, someone shooting at the police? The police. You think a black man would go free? First of all, let alone live an encounter like that, but then not be convicted after shooting at the police? Well, there you go. He wasn't convicted. He's a free man. But okay, that was a case where he was being shot at, maybe couldn't make out the person or whatever. Okay, let's go to another example where the guy shot unarmed people. From Associated Press in 2018, black man acquitted of killing white man after race dispute. Now, this idea of a race dispute is disputed. Ha ha ha. But you have the defendant, Stephen Spencer, who shot Christopher Williams in a confrontation outside the Pitson Bar in July 2017. And it was after another man refused to shake his hand over a game of pool. And here's a quote from the prosecution. Shooting an unarmed man on a street when you can retreat is not self-defense, Hogan said. He intentionally shot him in a vital part of his body. So in this particular case, you have individuals who, from the case that I've read, were unarmed, were not trying to take the guy's gun, and they were shot. The defendant with the gun did not attempt to run away or flee, even though that's a requirement in the state of Pennsylvania. By the way, I should note that Pennsylvania does have a castle doctrine / stand your ground type law, but this law is unique in the sense that the assailant against you must have a lethal weapon if you're going to use deadly force. But yes, this man was acquitted by a jury and went free. Here's another case. You might have heard about the suspected Texas high school gunman shooter who was released on bail one day after teacher and students were shot. So after shooting at his school and injuring 4 people, he was released on $75,000 bond. Keep in mind that Kyle Rittenhouse was released on $2 million bond. Now, you might have noticed that there's a big difference between $75,000 and $2 million. Not sure where the white privilege checks in there. By the way, before we go on to the next examples, if you've enjoyed this video so far and have enjoyed these examples and have maybe learned from them, maybe give this video a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel, helps boost in the algorithm. And if you want more people to see content like this, so that we don't have bad takes, garbage takes, like this idea that if Kyle Rittenhouse was black, somehow he would have had a worse time in the criminal justice system. If you want garbage takes like that to not permeate our society and our institutions any longer and rotting our civilization to the core, it would be appreciated if you share the video and give it a thumbs up. Here's another one in the stabbing death of a high school student. Here you had 18-year-old Shyam Trey Adams, who stabbed a 16-year-old to death. Apparently, the prosecution had evidence of Snapchat conversations where they agreed to have a fight. Of course, the defendant denied that there was any such agreement. And this is because in Connecticut, law bars an acquittal on grounds of self-defense in cases of combat by agreement not specifically authorized by law. And then, of course, there were accusations that Adams, the defendant, hid the knife used in the stabbing under a mattress. He also apparently lied to police, saying that he threw it in the Suffield River, when in fact they found it under the mattress. So there you have another case. Going to a case many of you have probably heard about, Breonna Taylor. This is the case of her boyfriend who shot at police, and his case didn't even make it to a jury. In fact, the judge dismissed the charges against him shooting at police, and he hit a police officer as well. The police were serving a no-knock warrant, and even though it was no-knock, they claimed that they knocked and announced themselves. In fact, Breonna Taylor's boyfriend acknowledges that he heard banging on the doors, knocking at the doors, but claimed he didn't know it was police. And Kenneth Walker, thinking officers were intruders, fired one shot as they broke down the door. Officers returned fire, riddling the apartment with bullets and killing the 26-year-old Taylor, his girlfriend, in the process. And here you can see Jefferson County Circuit Court Judge Olu Stevens dismissed the charges Monday with prejudice, meaning Walker can't be charged with the same offenses related to the shooting, according to court documents. And just to add the cherry on top, the same day that Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted, another case was going on that you probably never heard of, and this is the case of Andrew Coffey IV. He was found not guilty on all counts of murder and attempted first-degree murder. He's accused of firing at Indian River County Sheriff's deputies serving an early morning drug raid at his home in 2017. His girlfriend, Alteria Woods, was caught in the crossfire, shot 10 times, and later died. Coffey was charged with the murder of Woods, his girlfriend, after a grand jury exonerated 2 law enforcement officers for her death. By the way, the prosecutors said deputies did announce that they were there. But of course, the defendant maintains that he did not know it was police officers entering his home, and the jury sided with the defendant, not convicting him of those charges, although he is receiving a pretty lengthy sentence, most likely, for the illegal possession of the firearm, felony possession of a firearm. By the way, there are tons of examples of stories like this, as you can see in this thread from Amy Swearer. Great follow on Twitter, by the way. She has tons and tons of cases like this. So if you ever want to look through them, you can take a look. It's linked in the description box below. Now, I made this video for those of you in my audience who might have not known about these types of cases. Maybe you've come across this argument before and maybe you didn't know how to kind of deal with it because you didn't know the facts, but it's also designed for those people who are making those points at you about this idea that if Kyle Rittenhouse was black, that, you know, black people can't get a fair shot in the criminal justice system pretty much ever, if they even make it to the criminal justice system because racist police officers are going to kill them or whatever. Maybe you can start the conversation by sending a video like this along where they can get some of the examples that I laid out. And you could say, well, what about this? What about that? This seems like it's more of an egregious case, shooting at police officers and getting away with it, shooting at just objectively unarmed people that aren't even going for your gun. I mean, and they were acquitted. They were sometimes not even going to the jury. The judge got rid of the charge or whatever. So what do you guys think? Did you learn anything from this video? Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Social media links are in the description box below, as well as merch. Support us at nuancebro.com/join. It really helps out the channel and allows us to do more types of content. And I'll see you next time, bro.